I woke up wearing someone else's clothes, covered in mate bond marks I didn't remember getting, and apparently I'd just agreed to marry the most dangerous werewolf in North America. The silk shirt I was drowning in smelled like pine and winter nights and power, so much power my weak wolf whimpered even in my half-conscious state. Not mine. Definitely not mine. My clothes smelled like the discount detergent I bought in bulk and the grease from Murphy's Diner where I worked the breakfast shift. I bolted upright on the leather sofa, and the room spun. My neck throbbed. Not the dull ache of sleeping wrong, but the hot, pulsing sensation of fresh claiming marks. No. No, no, no. My fingers flew to my throat and found exactly what I feared, the raised, tender flesh of a mate bite. A strong one. The kind that left a permanent mark, not the weak, fading attempts my rank usually produced. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the glittering lights of the Continental Pack's estate. The ballroom. Where I'd been exactly. I checked the antique clock on the wall. 4 hours ago? The last thing I remembered was finishing my one allocated glass of champagne, my feet screaming in the cheap heels I'd borrowed, and finding what I thought was a coat closet to rest my eyes for just a minute. Just 1 minute before I had to go back out there and smile until my face hurt while higher-ranking she-wolves pretended I didn't exist. This was not a coat closet. The suite was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a mahogany desk that probably cost more than my car, and furniture that screamed old money and older bloodlines. The kind of place that ate girls like me for breakfast. Outside the doors, I heard it. Cheering. Music. The kind of celebration that meant something big had happened. My wolf stirred weakly, confused and frightened. She was always frightened. At 24, I still could barely shift, still struggled through transformations that should have been second nature since I was 16. My mother said I took after my father, whoever he was, because no Blackwood had ever been this weak. The double doors opened. He filled the doorway like a storm filling the sky. Ezra Nightshade. Alpha King of the Northern Territory. The wolf who controlled everything from the Canadian border to the Mason-Dixon line. I'd seen him earlier at the ball, holding court like the king he was, and I'd been grateful he hadn't noticed me. Men like him didn't notice girls like me. Except apparently, he had. You're awake. His voice was dark honey and whiskey, smooth and dangerous. He moved into the room with the deadly grace of a predator who'd never known fear. Good. We need to talk. I scrambled off the sofa, clutching the oversized shirt closed. What happened? Why am I wearing your clothes? Why is my neck? I couldn't finish. Couldn't say it out loud. His ice blue eyes fixed on me, and I felt the weight of his alpha power press against my skin. You accepted my claim 2 hours ago in front of 200 alphas. The bond is sealed. Legal and binding under the ancient laws. The room tilted. That's impossible. Is it? He moved closer, and I backed up until I hit the bookshelf. He didn't stop until I could feel the heat radiating off him, until my weak wolf was rolling over in submission and something else. Something that felt like recognition. You walked out of this suite wearing my marks, wearing my scent. You stood before the assembly and accepted the mate bond in the traditional words. Every alpha in North America witnessed it. I don't remember any of that. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. I had 1 glass of champagne and fell asleep in what I thought was a closet. I wouldn't. Wouldn't what? His eyes narrowed. Wouldn't accept the most powerful alpha in the territory? You're unmated, legal age, and your pack is drowning in debt. This is the best thing that could happen to a girl like you. The casual cruelty in those last words stung more than it should have. Girls like me. He meant weak. Worthless. The kind of wolf who worked 3 jobs and still couldn't afford her mother's medications. The kind of wolf who would never have been at this ball if Alpha Marcus hadn't ordered every unmated female from Riverside Pack to attend his desperate hunting for alliances. I don't remember, I repeated, forcing steel into my voice. I don't remember accepting anything. There's been a mistake. Something flickered across his perfect features. If I didn't know better, I'd call it surprise. You truly don't remember? No. I met his eyes, even though my wolf was screaming at me to lower them, to submit, to roll over for this alpha who could destroy us with a thought. And my wolf is too weak for a proper bond anyway. I can barely shift. Whatever you think happened, whatever marks I'm wearing, it won't work. You need a political mate, someone strong. Not a charity case from a dying pack. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. His power pressed harder, and I gasped, my knees buckling. He caught me before I fell, his hands burning through the silk shirt. Your wolf isn't too weak for this bond, he said softly, and there was something dangerous in his voice now. Something that made my wolf sit up and pay attention despite her fear. The marks prove that. The question is, why can't you remember accepting it? He released me, and I sagged against the bookshelf. Through the windows, the celebration was getting louder. Someone was making a toast. I caught fragments, new Luna Queen. Blessed Union. Luna Queen. They were talking about me. Impossible, ridiculous me. Ezra moved to the bar cart and poured himself 2 fingers of amber liquid. He didn't offer me any. Here's what's going to happen, Arya Blackwood. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept this bond publicly, stand at my side tomorrow night at the formal ceremony, and I'll make sure your mother gets the best medical care money can buy. I'll clear your pack's debts. I'll give you a life you couldn't dream of on your own. He turned, and his eyes were glacial. Or reject the bond. Break it. Of course, rejection of a fully sealed mate bond kills the weaker wolf 90% of the time. And even if you survive, you'll have humiliated me in front of every alpha in North America. Your pack will be destroyed. Your mother will lose her home. The ultimatum hung in the air between us like a blade. That's not a choice, I whispered. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's what you have. He moved past me to the door, then paused. 24 hours, Arya. The choice is yours, such as it is. He left, and I was alone in the suite wearing his shirt and his marks and his threats. Outside, they were still celebrating. And I still couldn't remember saying yes. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The guest room they'd given me was larger than my apartment and twice as cold. I'd been pacing for 3 hours, trying to force my brain to remember those missing 2 hours. Nothing. Just a blank space where apparently I'd agreed to mate bond with the most powerful, and most terrifying, alpha in North America. The champagne had been sweet. Too sweet, maybe. I remembered taking the glass from a server, remembered the way it fizzed on my tongue. Then finding what I thought was a coat closet, just needing to rest my aching feet for 5 minutes. Then waking up in Ezra's suite wearing his marks like a brand. I touched my neck again. The marks were real enough. Already healing into permanent scars that would tell every wolf who saw them exactly who I belonged to. My weak wolf whimpered at the thought, but underneath the fear was something else. Something that felt almost like contentment. Which made no sense. My wolf had never felt content in her life. A sharp knock on the door made me jump. Miss Blackwood? The Alpha King requests your presence at breakfast. Requests. Right. Because I could totally say no to the man who held my life, and my mother's, in his hands. They'd provided clothes. Designer labels I'd never heard of, all in my exact size. The dress was simple but elegant, deep green that made my dark hair look less mousy and my gray eyes less ordinary. When I looked in the mirror, I almost looked like I belonged here. Almost. The dining room was intimate compared to the ballroom, only able to seat 30 or 40 people. Ezra sat at the head of the table, reading something on a tablet, looking like he'd been carved from ice and arrogance. He didn't look up when I entered. Sit. Not a request. I sat 3 chairs down. His eyes finally lifted, and something dark flashed through them. Here. He pointed to the chair immediately to his right. My wolf tucked her tail and obeyed before I could think about it. I hated how easily she submitted to him. Breakfast was served by silent staff, fresh fruit, pastries that smelled like heaven, coffee so good it made me want to cry. At home, breakfast was whatever I could grab between my 5 a.m. shift at the diner and my 9 a.m. shift at the call center. You'll need to call your mother, Ezra said without looking up from his tablet. Tell her you're staying at the palace for a few days. Pack business. She'll worry. Then lie better. Cold. Dismissive. Like I was a problem he was solving, not a person. My assistant will arrange for her care while you're here. The best nurses, whatever medications she needs. The casual display of wealth and power should have made me grateful. Instead, it made me angry. How generous. Buying my cooperation. His eyes snapped to mine, and the force of his alpha power made my breath catch. I'm keeping your mother alive. Show some gratitude. For a bond one don't remember accepting? For marks I didn't consent to? For 24 hours to make an impossible choice? The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I was exhausted and scared and so tired of being powerless. Forgive me if I'm not more thankful. The temperature dropped. His power pressed against me, and my wolf whimpered, but I held his gaze. If I was going to die anyway, I might as well die with some dignity. Then his wolf did something strange. A low growl rumbled through his chest, not at me, but protective. Possessive. Like my defiance had triggered something primal. Ezra's jaw clenched, fighting his own wolf for control. Eat your breakfast. We ate in hostile silence. Afterward, I asked about security footage. I want to see what happened. During those 2 hours. Something flickered across his face. The footage was corrupted. Corrupted. A technical malfunction. But his eyes said he didn't believe it either. How convenient. Eat faster. We have meetings. The meetings were torture. Ezra dragged me through the palace like a possession he was showing off, introducing me as his intended mate to various pack officials who looked at me like I was a stain on expensive carpet. His hand stayed on the small of my back, burning through the fabric, keeping me close even as he barely spoke to me. His wolf kept doing that growling thing whenever another male got too close. Possessive and protective in a way that contradicted everything about Ezra's cold business transaction attitude. We were walking down an empty corridor when I saw it, a flash of white tucked under my door. I pulled away from Ezra's grip and grabbed the note before he could stop me. The words were written in elegant script. You saw what you shouldn't have. Accept the bond and stay silent, or your mother dies. The paper trembled in my hands. Ezra snatched it, his face going dangerously blank as he read. Where did this come from? Under my door. Just now. My voice shook. What did I see? What happened during those 2 hours? He crumpled the note, and I heard the paper disintegrate in his fist. You're not leaving my sight. Not for a second. Do you understand? I understand someone's threatening to kill my mother, and you're not telling me why. His hand shot out, gripping my chin, tilting my face up. I'm trying to keep you alive, you stubborn. He stopped, his eyes searching mine like he was looking for something. You really don't remember? No, I whispered. I really don't. He released me abruptly and pulled out his phone. Celine. My office. Now. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Celine was tall and willowy, with silver blonde hair that fell to her waist and violet eyes that seemed to see straight through me. She wore flowing robes marked with symbols I didn't recognize. The High Priestess, Ezra said by way of introduction. My childhood friend. The only person in this palace I trust completely. Celine studied me with those unsettling eyes. May I? She gestured to my hand. I looked at Ezra. He nodded curtly. Her fingers were cool when they wrapped around mine. Her eyes closed, and I felt something, a tingle of magic, foreign and strange. My wolf stirred uneasily. Celine's eyes snapped open, violet flashing to white. Oh, goddess. What? Ezra demanded. She's not weak. Celine's voice was shaking. She's been suppressed. Magically bound since childhood. This level of work would require a powerful witch and constant maintenance. Someone has been actively keeping her wolf dormant for years. The room spun. That's impossible. I've always been. Weak? No, child. You're anything but weak. Someone wanted you to believe that. Someone needed you controllable. Celine looked at Ezra. This changes everything. Can you break it? His voice was sharp. Not here. Not safely. The binding is old and complex. If I rush it, I could damage her wolf permanently. She squeezed my hand. But I can tell you what she is under all those locks and chains. What? I whispered. Strong. Very strong. Old blood. The kind people would kill for. Before anyone could respond, the office door burst open. A woman swept in wearing fury like a designer gown. She was stunning, sharp features, ice blonde hair, cold blue eyes that matched Ezra's. Power radiated off her in waves. Lyanna. Ezra's voice could have frozen fire. You weren't invited. No? How rude of me to crash the celebration of your new engagement. Lyanna Frost's smile was all teeth. Especially when you were engaged to me 3 months ago. The air crackled with tension. Celine moved protectively closer to me. Our engagement was political and never finalized, Ezra said coldly. You have no claim here. Don't I? My father will be fascinated to hear you broke our arrangement to chase after a pathetic omega from a nothing pack. She turned those cold eyes on me, and I felt the weight of her power like a physical blow. Look at you. Can't even hold your wolf form for more than an hour, I'd bet. What could the great Ezra Nightshade possibly want with damaged goods? Something inside me stirred. Something that had been sleeping, bound, locked away for so long I'd forgotten it existed. Lyanna, leave. Ezra moved between us, his power rising to meet hers. Or what? You'll start a war between our packs over this, creature? My father controls the Northern Territory. You need our alliance, Ezra. You need me. I need nothing from you. She laughed, cruel and sharp. You need everything from me. But if you want to throw it all away for a weak little. The thing inside me broke free. I felt the binding snap like chains shattering, felt power surge through my veins like liquid fire. My wolf rose up, no longer timid and afraid, but blazing with fury that had been building for years. For every insult, every dismissal, every time someone had made me feel like I was less than nothing. When I opened my eyes, the room had gone silent. Lyanna had stumbled back, her face pale. Celine was staring at me with wonder and fear. And Ezra. Ezra was looking at me like he'd never seen me before. Your eyes, he said quietly. They're silver. I could feel it, the power coursing through me, wild and untamed and utterly mine. Not weak. Not broken. Not anymore. Silver, Celine breathed. The lunar line. The ancient bloodline. We thought, everyone thought. They're extinct, Lyanna finished, her voice barely a whisper. They died out 200 years ago. They were hunted to extinction because their power could challenge any alpha, Ezra finished. He was still staring at me, and in his eyes I saw shock and something else. Something that looked almost like fear. Even an alpha king. My wolf surged forward again, and when I spoke, my voice echoed with power I'd never felt before. Someone explain to me right now what the hell is happening, or I'll. The threat died on my lips as the room started spinning. The power drained out of me as fast as it had appeared, and I felt the magical binding snap back into place like a rubber band, vicious and cruel. I collapsed. Ezra caught me before I hit the ground, and the last thing I heard before darkness claimed me was his voice, rough with something that might have been concern. Find out who bound her. Find out why. And find out what she saw during those missing 2 hours. Now. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. I woke up in Ezra's bed. Not a guest room this time, his actual bedroom, with its massive 4-poster bed and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest. I could smell him everywhere, pine and winter and that devastating power that made my still weak wolf want to roll over and purr. My head felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. Every muscle ached like I'd run a marathon while shifting for the first time. You're awake. Ezra sat in a chair by the window, watching me with those ice-blue eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck full of magic. I struggled to sit up. The room spun, and he was there instantly, hands steadying me. The touch sent sparks through my skin, the mate bond, still there, still binding us together whether I remembered accepting it or not. Don't move too fast. Celine says the binding snapping back into place would have killed a weaker wolf. His jaw clenched. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. 6 hours. The formal ceremony was in 18. My 24-hour deadline was evaporating while I slept. What happened? I asked. Those silver eyes are from the lunar bloodline. He moved away, putting distance between us like I was something dangerous. The original royal family. The wolves who ruled before my father took power 20 years ago. The way he said it made my stomach drop. Took power how? By right of conquest. By ancient law. His voice was flat, emotionless. By massacre. The word hung in the air like a blade. The lunar line was planning a coup, Ezra continued, still not looking at me. They wanted to overthrow my father, return to the old ways. Challenged his rule in front of the Continental Assembly. So he invoked the right of blood, complete annihilation of the challenging bloodline. No survivors. No mercy. I felt sick. He killed them all. Every last one. Men, women, children. Infants. Now he did look at me, and his eyes were winter cold. Or so we thought. The pieces were clicking together in my mind, but I didn't want them to fit. Didn't want this to be real. You think I'm. The council is certain of it. Silver eyes don't lie. They're the mark of the lunar line, the sign of ancient power that can challenge any alpha. He moved to the window, his back to me. They've demanded you be imprisoned for treason. Locked away until they can determine if you're a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm nobody. My mother and we're from a disbanded pack, she told me I stopped. My mother. Who always tensed when I asked about my father. Who moved us 7 times in 10 years. Who told me to never show my wolf in public, to never draw attention, to always stay small and quiet and invisible. Who always seemed to be looking over her shoulder. I need to call her. My voice came out strangled. I need to call my mother right now. Ezra's hand tightened on the window frame. The council wants you in a cell. I told them no. But I can't let you leave this room. House arrest until we sort this out. He finally turned. Make your call. But Arya, think carefully about what you ask her. Because whatever truth she's been hiding, it's the kind that gets people killed. They brought me a secure phone. My hands shook as I dialed the number for Riverside General Hospital, asked for Margaret Blackwood's room. Arya? My mother's voice was weak, tired. Sweetheart, they told me you were staying at the palace for pack business. Are you all right? You sound. Who am I? The words burst out of me. Who am I really? Silence. Long and terrible. Mom, please. I need to know. The silver eyes, the lunar bloodline. I heard her sob. Just once, broken and terrified. You manifested. Oh goddess, after all these years, you manifested. Tell me. Tears were streaming down my face. Tell me the truth. Your name isn't Arya Blackwood. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's Ariana Silvermoon. You're the last surviving princess of the lunar line. The youngest daughter of King Marcus and Queen Elena Silvermoon. The room tilted. Ezra's hand was suddenly on my shoulder, steadying me, and I hadn't even heard him move. I was a servant in the palace, my mother, Margaret, continued through her tears. Just a nobody who cleaned the royal chambers. The night they came, the night the king's soldiers attacked, your mother thrust you into my arms. You were 6 months old. She begged me to run, to hide you, to keep you safe. She said, a sob broke through. She said you were the future. The hope. The last chance. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the rushing in my ears. I bound your wolf myself. Found a witch, paid everything I had. Every year, I renewed the binding, kept you weak, kept you hidden. I thought if you never manifested, never showed what you were, you could have a normal life. A safe life. She was crying openly now. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I made you think you were broken when you were really royalty, I finished numbly. The enemy bloodline. The family that was massacred for treason. You were babies, Margaret said fiercely. Your siblings were babies. The youngest was 3 months old. It wasn't a war, Arya. It was a slaughter. And they hunted for survivors for years. I thought, I prayed, they'd finally stopped looking. I looked up at Ezra. His face was carved from stone, but something dark moved behind his eyes. Who carried out the massacre? I asked, though I already knew. Already felt the truth like a knife between my ribs. The king's elite guard, Margaret whispered. His most loyal soldiers. His son led them. Ezra Nightshade was 17 years old when he helped murder your family. I dropped the phone. Ezra didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't deny it. Just stood there with that terrible emptiness in his eyes. Get out, I whispered. Arya. Get out. The words came out as a howl, and I felt the binding crack again, felt that silver power surge up. You killed them. You killed my family. My siblings were babies, and you. I followed orders. His voice was flat. Dead. I was a soldier. My father was king. I did what I was commanded to do. They were children. I know. And there it was, a flash of something raw and terrible in his eyes. Pain. Guilt. Shame. I know what I am, Arya. What I've done. I've lived with it every day for 20 years. But I followed the law. The ancient law that says a bloodline that challenges the king can be exterminated like animals. That's the law you followed? I was shaking, power crackling under my skin. You're a monster. Yes. Simple. Final. I am. But I'm also the only thing standing between you and a council that wants you dead. So you can hate me, Goddess knows you should, but you will stay in this room where I can protect you until we figure out who bound you and why. He moved to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I was against it. The massacre. I argued with my father for hours. But in the end, I was a good soldier. A loyal son. His hand clenched on the doorframe. I've regretted it every day since. Your regret doesn't bring them back. No. It doesn't. He left, the door locking behind him with a click that sounded like a cell door closing. I sat on his bed wearing his marks and cried for the family I'd never known. For the siblings whose names I didn't even remember. For the mother who died begging a servant to save her baby. For the mate bond that tied me to their killer. The food came an hour later. A covered tray delivered by a silent servant who wouldn't meet my eyes. I was too numb to be hungry, but the soup smelled good, warm and rich. I lifted the spoon to my lips. My wolf screamed a warning a second too late. The burning started in my throat, spreading through my chest like wildfire. The spoon clattered to the floor. I tried to call out, but my voice was gone, my throat closing, my lungs forgetting how to breathe. Poison. Someone poisoned me. I hit the floor, convulsing, silver flashing behind my eyes. The binding cracked again, my wolf surging forward in pure survival instinct, but it wasn't enough. The poison was too strong, spreading too fast. The door exploded inward. Ezra was there, and his face was murder. He dropped beside me, his hand wrapping around my throat, and I felt his alpha power pour into me. Raw and overwhelming, fighting the poison with pure dominance, commanding my body to heal, to fight, to live. "Don't you dare," he snarled. "Don't you dare die on me." His wrist was at my mouth, and I smelled blood. His blood. Drink. Now. Alpha blood will neutralize the poison. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to die rather than be saved by him. But my wolf was stronger than my pride. She latched onto his wrist and drank, and his blood was liquid fire, burning away the poison, burning away the weakness, burning through the binding like it was paper. The silver came back, stronger this time. I felt the full weight of my heritage crash through me, power and rage and the ghosts of 17 murdered members of my family demanding justice. When I finally released his wrist, gasping and shaking, my eyes met his. "Someone in your palace just tried to kill me," I said, and my voice echoed with power that made him flinch. "Someone who doesn't want me to claim my heritage. I'll find them." His voice was dark with promise. "And I'll make them wish they'd never been born." "Why?" I demanded. "Why do you care? Why save me when you helped murder everyone I came from?" He stood, and for the first time, I saw past the ice to the man beneath. Broken and haunted and carrying 20 years of guilt like chains. "Because the mate bond wasn't random," he said quietly. "Celine confirmed it while you were unconscious. When a lunar heir comes of age, the bond activates, seeking out one of two people, their destined protector or their greatest enemy." He looked down at his hands, and I saw them trembling. "You're the princess I helped turn into an orphan. And the bond chose me." The words hung between us like a noose. "Which am I?" he asked, and his voice was raw. "Your protector or your enemy? Because right now, Arya, I don't know. And neither do you." I stared at him, this man who wore my marks, who'd saved my life twice now, who'd helped slaughter my family. This man my soul recognized as mate even as my heart screamed for justice. "Get out," I whispered. He left without another word. And I sat there on the floor of his bedroom, tasting his blood on my tongue and feeling the mate bond pulse between us like a heartbeat, wondering if fate was trying to heal an old wound or create a new tragedy. The formal ceremony was in 12 hours. I still had no idea if I would survive it. But one thing was certain, someone in this palace wanted me dead, and they just declared war. Let them come. I was done being weak. Done hiding. Done pretending I was anything other than what I was. The last princess of the lunar line. And I was going to find out who'd been keeping me locked away for 20 years, and why. Even if it killed me. Even if the answer destroyed everything. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw faceless children, my siblings, and heard their screams as soldiers cut them down. Soldiers led by the man whose marks I wore on my neck. The mate bond pulsed between us like a living thing, confused and insistent. My wolf wanted him. Craved him. The rational part of my brain wanted to claw his eyes out. Dawn broke over the forest, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Fitting. The door opened without a knock. Ezra entered carrying a tray, tea, toast, fruit. Like I was a guest instead of a prisoner. Like he hadn't just revealed he'd helped massacre my entire family. "You should eat," he said, setting the tray on the desk. I tested everything myself. How reassuring. The man who killed my family is making sure no one else gets to finish the job. He flinched. Good. I wanted him to hurt the way I was hurting. "I deserve that," he said quietly. "I deserve worse. But we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen." He moved to the window, keeping his distance. Smart. I wasn't sure I could control myself if he got too close. "Someone is trying to kill you. The same someone who bound your wolf for 20 years. The same someone who likely drugged you at the ball and manipulated those missing hours. This isn't random, Arya. This is a conspiracy that's been running since you were an infant. And why should I trust you to help me figure it out? You're part of the conspiracy. Your father gave the order." "My father is dead," he interrupted. "Died 10 years ago. And before he died, he spent every day drowning in guilt over what he'd done. He told me," Ezra's voice cracked. "He told me the massacre was his greatest shame. That something about the order had felt wrong, but he'd been so certain, so convinced it was necessary for the stability of the realm." "Convinced by who?" "That's what we need to find out." He turned to face me. "I'm offering you a deal. Pretend the mate bond is real. Stand by me publicly. Help me root out whoever is behind this. In exchange, I'll help you access your full powers. I'll find out who suppressed your wolf and why. And when this is over," he took a breath. "When this is over, if you want to reject the bond, I won't stop you. Even if it kills me." The mate bond flared at those words, sharp and painful. My wolf howled in protest. "You die," I said. "Rejection of a fully sealed bond. Kills the weaker wolf, yes. And between a lunar princess with ancient power and a king carrying 20 years of guilt?" His smile was bitter. "I think we both know which one of us is weaker." I stared at him. At this man who was offering to help me grow strong enough to destroy him. "Why?" "Because it's what you deserve. Justice. Answers. A choice." He moved closer, and I felt the pull of the bond like a physical thing. "And because the alternative is watching you die at the hands of whoever poisoned you, and I can't," his jaw clenched. "I won't let that happen. Not again. I won't fail to protect another Silvermoon." The use of my real name, my family name, sent a jolt through me. "And if I say no to your deal? Then Lyanna and her father's army will tear this palace apart, the council will execute you for treason, and whoever's been pulling strings for 20 years will win." He held out his hand. "Or we fight back. Together. And maybe, we find out the truth about what really happened that night." I looked at his hand. Scarred from battles I couldn't imagine. Stained with the blood of my family. Connected to mine by a bond neither of us had chosen. I took it. The mate bond sang, and my wolf surged with satisfaction. Ezra's eyes flashed, his wolf rising to meet mine, and for a moment, the hatred warred with something else. Something that felt dangerously like trust. "I'm doing this for answers," I said. "Not for you. I know." His hand tightened on mine. "But I'll take what I can get." The council meeting was set for noon. 6 hours to prepare for war. Celine came to help me dress. The gown was stunning, silver and midnight blue, cut to show the mate marks on my neck. A crown of moonstones sat on the vanity, ancient and beautiful. The lunar crown, Celine said softly. We found it in the royal vaults. It's been waiting for you. I touched it with trembling fingers. My mother wore this. Your grandmother. Your great-grandmother. Every lunar queen for 500 years. She picked it up carefully. May I? I nodded, and she placed it on my head. The weight was surprising, but the moment it settled, I felt something click into place. Power rushed through me, and the magical binding shattered completely. My wolf rose up, fully manifested for the first time in my life. Strong and proud and blazing with silver fire. There you are, Celine whispered, tears streaming down her face. There's the princess we've been waiting for. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. The crown glowed against my dark hair. My eyes were pure silver now, no trace of gray left. I looked like I belonged on a throne. I looked like my mother. Celine, I said carefully. Ezra said his father was manipulated. Do you know by who? Her face went carefully blank. I have theories. But I need proof before I speak them aloud. Some accusations, once made, cannot be taken back. Tell me. She looked at the door, then back at me. Come to the council meeting. Listen carefully to who speaks against you and how. Sometimes the guilty reveal themselves through their own fear. The council chamber was ancient, carved from stone and magic. 12 seats for the 12 ruling alphas of the territories, with Ezra's throne at the head and a smaller throne beside it, the Luna Queen's throne, empty for 20 years. When I entered wearing the lunar crown, the room went silent. Ezra stood, and every eye tracked to the marks on my neck, the matching ones on his. Council members, I present Princess Ariana Silvermoon, my mate and your future Luna Queen. The explosion of voices was immediate. She's the enemy bloodline. This is treason. She should be executed, not crowned. Ezra's power crashed through the room like a tidal wave, silencing them all. She is my mate. My choice. And under ancient law, a mated alpha king's choice is absolute. Ancient law also says a bloodline that challenges the throne can be eliminated, a cold voice said from the doorway. Lyanna swept in wearing armor, her father behind her with 50 Northern Pack soldiers. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Alpha Frost was a mountain of a man, scarred and brutal. Ezra Nightshade, you have bound yourself to the enemy. You have betrayed your father's legacy and endangered every pack under your rule. The Northern Territory demands you step down. Demands? Ezra's voice was dangerously soft. Or we take it by force. Lyanna smiled, sharp and cruel. Your father murdered an entire bloodline to protect his throne. Now you're handing that throne to one of their survivors? It's poetic, really. And pathetic. I felt Ezra's wolf rise up, felt his rage through the bond. But before he could speak, I stood. You talk about my bloodline like we were criminals, I said, and my voice rang with power that made the ancient stones hum. Like the massacre was justified. But I've done nothing wrong. I didn't even know who I was until yesterday. Ignorance isn't innocence, Lyanna shot back. Your family tried to overthrow the rightful king. Did they? Celine's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. She stood from her seat, and I saw her gather her magic around her like a cloak. I've been researching the old records. The testimony from that night. And I've found something very interesting. High Priestess, Alpha Frost growled. This is not the time. This is exactly the time. Celine's eyes were blazing violet. The late king's testimony stated he was approached by the High Priestess of that era, my predecessor, with evidence of the Lunar family's treason. Evidence that was later destroyed in a convenient fire. The king gave the order based solely on her word. The room went very still. What are you suggesting? Ezra asked carefully. I'm suggesting that High Priestess Morgana Frost had her own reasons for wanting the lunar line eliminated. Celine turned to Lyanna. Your grandmother. Who is still very much alive, by the way. Living in your father's stronghold. Still practicing her magic. Still whispering in ears that are willing to listen. Lyanna's face went white. You're accusing my grandmother of manipulating a king? I'm accusing her of dark magic. Of using forbidden rituals to twist minds and manufacture evidence. Of orchestrating a massacre because she foresaw something she couldn't control. Celine moved to the center of the chamber. She foresaw that a lunar heir would one day strip the corrupt council members of their power. Members who were paying her very well to maintain the status quo. That's insane, Alpha Frost snarled. You have no proof. Don't I? Celine raised her hand, and images appeared in the air, memories pulled from the ether, shimmering and ghostly. I've been communing with the spirits of that night. The dead remember what the living tried to forget. We watched in horror as the scene played out. The late king, looking confused and drugged. High Priestess Morgana whispering in his ear, her magic wrapping around his mind like chains. The order being given. Young Ezra, barely more than a boy, arguing with his father and being commanded to obey. And then the massacre. Quick and brutal and sickening. She manipulated him, Ezra breathed. She manipulated my father into doing her dirty work, yes. Celine lowered her hand, and the images faded. And now she's doing it again. Lyanna, has your grandmother been encouraging this coup? Whispering about Ezra's weakness? Suggesting that Arya's heritage makes her too dangerous to live? Lyanna's silence was answer enough. Where is she? I asked, and my voice was cold as winter. Where is the woman who murdered my family? In the north, Alpha Frost said reluctantly. But you have no authority to. I have every authority. I stood, the lunar crown blazing with power. I am the last of the Silver Moon line. My family's blood cries out for justice. And under the ancient laws you're so fond of quoting, I have the right to challenge my family's murderer to a duel. She's an old woman, Lyanna protested. You can't. Then you stand for her. I met her eyes. You and your grandmother against me and Ezra. 2 against 2. Traditional alpha duel. Winner takes the throne and the truth. The chamber erupted again. But through the chaos, I felt Ezra's hand find mine. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Your powers just manifested. You're not trained. Neither were my siblings when they died. I squeezed his hand. I'm done running. Done hiding. This ends now. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. Together, then. Together. Alpha Frost was conferring with his daughter, their faces grim. Finally, he turned. We accept. 3 days from now, at the ceremonial grounds. Lyanna and Morgana Frost against Ezra Nightshade and Ariana Silvermoon. To the death or submission. Agreed, Ezra said. The council dispersed in chaos, members choosing sides, alliances fracturing. But Celine caught my arm as we headed for the door. There's something else, she said urgently. Something I saw in the spirit's memories. About the night of the ball. My heart stopped. What about it? Come with me. Both of you. There's something you need to see. She led us to her sanctuary, a room filled with herbs and crystals and ancient magic. She waved her hand over a scrying bowl, and images formed in the water. I watched myself at the ball, tired and overwhelmed. Watched myself accept a glass of champagne from a server whose face I couldn't quite see. Watched myself stumble, disoriented, toward what I thought was a coat closet. But it wasn't a closet. It was a private room where an old woman was performing a ritual. Blood and bones and dark magic swirling in patterns that made my stomach turn. That's the forbidden death curse, Celine whispered. She was killing someone remotely. Someone who, she stopped. Goddess. She was killing the witch who bound your wolf. The one loose end who could testify to the conspiracy. In the vision, I watched myself stumble into the room. Watched the old woman, Morgana, turn with fury in her eyes. Watched her raise her hand to strike me down. And then Ezra was there. He burst through the door like an avenging angel, his power blazing. He grabbed me, his teeth sinking into my neck in a claiming bite so fast and fierce it left no room for argument. Mine, his wolf snarled at Morgana. Touch her and die. The mate bond sealed instantly, ancient and absolute. Morgana couldn't kill me without declaring war on an alpha king. She'd back down, her face twisted with rage. And then. I made you forget, Ezra's voice said in the vision. My vision self was drugged and terrified, and he was holding me gently. I'm so sorry. But if you remember what you saw, she'll find a way to kill you. I'm making you forget, and we're going to walk out there and announce our engagement, and it's going to save your life. Do you understand? Vision me nodded, already fading under the compulsion of his alpha command. Why are you helping me? Because you're my mate, he'd said simply. I felt the bond the moment you stumbled into that room. And I've failed to protect one Silvermoon. I won't fail again. The vision faded. I turned to Ezra, and he was staring at the bowl with something raw and vulnerable on his face. You claimed me to save my life, I whispered. Not for politics. Not for power. You felt the mate bond and used it to protect me. I didn't know who you were, he said hoarsely. Not then. I just knew you were mine, and she was going to kill you, and I couldn't, his voice broke. I couldn't let another innocent die because of that woman's schemes. The pieces fell into place. The corrupted footage. The missing memories. The note threatening my mother. All of it was Morgana trying to silence me before I remembered what I'd seen. She's been orchestrating everything, Celine said. The massacre. The binding of your wolf. The poisoning. All to prevent the vision she foresaw, a lunar heir stripping away the corruption she's built over decades. I looked at Ezra, this man who'd carried guilt for a crime he'd been magically compelled to commit. Who'd claimed me as his mate not for political gain but for protection. Who'd offered to die if it meant I got justice. The mate bond pulsed between us, and for the first time, I didn't fight it. 3 days, I said. We have 3 days to train, to prepare, to become strong enough to end this. 3 days to avenge your family, Ezra added. To free my father's memory from the stain of her manipulation. 3 days to take back what was stolen from both of us. I held out my hand, and this time, when he took it, there was no hesitation. Think we can win? His smile was fierce and wild and full of the warrior I'd seen in the vision. Princess, I've been waiting 20 years to kill that woman. She doesn't stand a chance. Celine laughed, bright and sharp. The lost princess and the guilty king against the architect of their tragedy. This will be a duel for the history books. I looked down at our joined hands, at the mate marks that had seemed like a curse and now felt like destiny. Then let's give them a story worth remembering. The lunar crown blazed on my head, my wolf surged with newfound power, and the mate bonds sang between us like a promise. 3 days until the duel. 3 days until justice. 3 days until I either reclaimed my throne or died trying. But I wouldn't die. Not now. Not when I finally knew the truth. Not when I had a mate who'd defied the woman who'd murdered my family to keep me safe. Morgana Frost had orchestrated the fall of the lunar line. In 3 days, I would orchestrate hers. And this time, there would be no survivors. No mercy. Just the silver-eyed princess and her reluctant king, standing together against the darkness that had torn them apart. The game was ending. And we were going to win. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.